been some, that looks a bit blue. There's been some major changes or changes that we need to respond to in initial teacher education, which I know some of you are aware of. One of those key changes does that look better? No, it looked a bit blue to me before then. Thank you. One of those is the introduction of the ITE core content framework. Okay, so for the first time ever, really, we've got quite a detailed curriculum for initial teacher education. I was involved in some of the consultation and the roundtable discussions on this, and I think that first of all, the really important thing to say is that this is a minimum entitlement for every trainee. So every trainee is entitled to experience the ITE core content framework, which then most of you will be aware of then carries on into the early career framework. So they will be the first ones who, apart from the pilot, they'll be the first ones who have experienced the ITE core content framework and then carry on into those 2 years in which they experience and take part in the early career framework. Okay. As I say, really important is that it's a minimum requirement, or a minimum entitlement, but it's not the whole curriculum. And the group that worked on this, including Sam Twistleton, who was the chair of that group, is really at pains to stress that it's not the only thing we should be delivering. We have to deliver it, but it should be part of a broader and richer and wider curriculum. And actually, the core content is focused more on school-based training rather than the university-based training. But we've reviewed our curriculum in light of that, and obviously we've reviewed it in light of there's a new Ofsted framework for assessing ITE as well. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you a little bit about that. First change you'll notice, we used to call this our professional studies curriculum. We've now integrated subject more into this, although I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go along. So we've now renamed it the Secondary Partnership ITE curriculum because it's the whole curriculum now. Okay. Did you say something? No? Okay. All right, so moving on.
Hello?
Hello? Is that Simon talking now? No, okay, right. Okay. So it still needs a final proof read, which I was supposed to do before getting it to you. I just didn't have time to do the final proofread, so it's still got draft written all over it. We will do a final proofread, sort it out, and then send you a PDF version as well, so things don't keep moving up and down the pages as they currently are at the moment. There's a little sort of background about the curriculum and how it's developed over the years there for you to read. And then we have, let's just have a look. There are links then to the different standards. So I'm just going to pick a standard so I can sort of talk to you about how it's structured. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Teaching Standard 2. And click into that. So the way it's presented is, first of all, it's got the teaching standard and then the information from the ITE core content framework. So that's up there, so you can see it immediately when you click onto this. And then underneath that, we've got either 3 or 4 columns depending on the teaching standard, and in those we've updated what the required reading and suggested reading for each teaching standard. That's in the first column. Then there is the university-based training, and generally the university-based training is looking more broadly than the ITE framework, okay, core content framework, okay. So this is standard 2, which is about progress. So am I on standard 2? I'm just rechecking that I am. Yes, standard 2 on progress. And in the university part of that, we'll be looking more broadly at children's learning, okay, and different learning theories. Now, the ITE core content framework very much is promoting cognitive approaches to learning at the moment, looking at retrieval, short-term memory, conversion from short-term memory to long-term memory. So it's got quite a particular approach, which we think obviously is important, but we also think trainees need to be exposed to other learning theories as well, which will support them in their teaching and learning. We've had some quite rich discussions amongst colleagues, especially those perhaps from the more creative subjects, who feel that the cognitive approach has some relevance, but not as much relevance as perhaps some other learning theories. So we're providing that broader context, and also hopefully supporting that development of critical evaluation and critical reflection and supporting of their master's level thinking. So that then there's a next column which is things within the professional studies curriculum that either the university delivers for core trainees or school direct providers deliver for their trainees. And then this is the big bit for you as a group of people, which is the school-based training aspect of this. So how does all of this demonstrate itself in terms of school-based training, and how do you support the trainees in terms of that teaching standard? Because to be honest, if we go back up to this bit, the learn how to is all the stuff they're doing with you in school, and the learn how to, those are people who are now familiar with this, there's a real focus on that interaction between an expert, whether that expert is the SMC, the mentor, or maybe a SENCO or a teaching and learning lead in the school, but that interaction between the trainee and an expert, where the trainee there's some input, there's discussion, the trainees then try things out and implement things, but then really carefully reflect and unpick that. And that's quite a good mentors, and SMCs have always done this, but actually there's quite a change in how much interaction is expected between the trainee, mentor, or trainee and expert other, okay? So just keeping going down, once we've got those, who does what bits, shall we say, and then after that, we've got the activities which really are all about trying to drive and ensure that the trainees do have those sort of discussions and experiences that they need to fulfill the know-how to bits of the curriculum. So in this case, we've got some pre-course activities for each teaching standard. We've got a WordPress site that all the people who are accepted onto our courses have access to. And we've got something for each teaching standard, which just begins to get them thinking about that standard, okay? Then we've got, those of you who worked with us for a while will know, the emerging, developing and extending tasks related to each teaching standard. Most of the emerging tasks now are in the induction booklet. Virtually all of them are in the induction booklet. Then we've got the developing tasks, and then we've got the developing tasks. Again, we've tried to focus around lessons, discussions, preparing for a particular lesson, a lesson observation having a particular focus, and then the mentor and the trainee unpicking and reflecting on that observed lesson, okay? And then the extending tasks, we've made extending task 2 compulsory. That's the one about progress, okay? And I think extending task 6, which is about assessment, that's compulsory. And then the trainees can choose 2 other extending tasks, depending on, it might be something their course leader thinks they need to do, or it might be an area of development for them, or actually it might be an area of interest for the trainee. Okay. So that's the structure of that document. As I say, it's been completely reviewed. Massive thanks to Helen Sheehan, who is the cluster leader for humanities and course leader for RE, who's done an immense amount of work on this, and also other colleagues have contributed. I know, Jenny, you've done a couple of those teaching standards, haven't you, as well? So and we hope you'll find that useful. After the break, there is an opportunity for you to interact more closely with this document, and I know Jenny's got some questions and activities to support that. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and then I've got one other document to show you before